Jeff Lobb, SparkTank Media. I'm sitting in New Jersey today in my office, and I have the pleasure of having a guest on board today. I'm Tyler Steenken from Nebraska, is it? Are you sitting in
Lincoln, Nebraska. Go
Lincoln,
Huskers.
Nebraska. From Cole Realty Resource is joining us. So a little different time zone, but was really excited to kind of have this conversation about dominating your farm area. And as you know, as most of you know that I've had the pleasure of speaking with or being in front of, sometimes it's getting harder and harder now to get really excited about some of the technology and marketing that's available. Some of the stuff is very same old, same old. It's an evolution of the same thing. So as I got back from one of the conferences, I met Tyler. And while Tyler's company's been in the biz for a while, Cole Realty Resource is providing data. There's a whole new spin on how to actually turn this stuff into making money. And to me, you know, my head starts going and I start thinking about all the ways to leverage, not just technology, because I don't like the word technology anymore either. It's how do I use all this stuff, marketing, emails, data, big data, to go make some money. So when I ran into Tyler, so he's joining us today. I'm going to be bouncing some questions off of him being the expert on his business. But I want to share with you first some ideas and strategies, and then we'll share some screens, make it kind of casual for everyone. But the focus today is how do I leverage old school, new school, and the word big data that we've always heard about. So Tyler, your company, Cole Realty Resources, provides data. Now, let you explain the data part, and then I'm going to get into the strategy part. What do you guys provide?
Yeah, awesome. So we've been doing it for over 70 years, Jeff, right? So 7 decades is what we do. And so prior to technology, a lot of people knew us for these big blue crisscross books that we always printed. So for example, if you lived in New Jersey or if you lived in, Baltimore or Orlando, Florida, you buy one of these crisscross directories, open up the book.
Yep.
And instead of by a telephone book, which was by last name, these books were by street name and house number. So if I was in a real estate and I wanted to be able to call everybody up and down the street and invite them to an open house, that's where I open up one of these big blue books and all the information, right? And then any small business would use it, or even police department. So kid you not, about 15 years ago when I first started here, Law and Order had an episode of them pulling out a crisscross directory in the city of New York City and basically saying, hey, a break-in happened in this big apartment complex.
Yep.
So we need to call all the tenants in that apartment building and see if we can try to see what's going on here, right? So that's who we are. Fast forward to where we're at now, and now we have information on everybody, as much as their email address, their cell phone number, all tied to a specific person. So now you can use that data, to call folks in the neighborhood, email folks in the neighborhood, do Facebook custom audiences, and really own the mind share of a specific neighborhood.
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a second. So here's what happens. People, I run into all the time. They go, I've either heard of that or I've used that before or I even have it now. And to me, I almost like to not squash that idea. I was like, listen, you might have it. I run into people all the time that have a technology or a system or a platform, but don't leverage it nearly to what you're supposed to be doing with it. So here's what got me excited is how do we farm and generate more local activity? If I look at my farm area, call it 2-mile radius, 5-mile radius, whatever it might be, we have to work hard to either spend money getting postcards out there, door knocking, and that all still works if you want to go out there and do it. It does. We teach it all the time. So, one of my coaching clients brought this up to me once. We were talking about, how do we more effectively do this? There's got to be a better way. So we wanted to get into some of the leveraging of technology and systems. So we leveraged and said, let's look at Cole Realty Resources. Let's get the data, meaning let's pull the data in a 5-mile radius of my farm area. So I'm getting their name, their first name, last name for the most part, and even people that live in the home, I think, can even populate, right?
Yep. All the tenants above 18 should be in there, or close to what we have, right? Yep.
Right. So we pull all together, say a 5-mile radius, and we get some of them with email addresses and some with cell phone numbers. And I think I don't know what percentage you might use, but nothing's perfect. Is there a percentage you use about?
Yeah, I mean, it's across the board generally, and there's never any dead areas, right? But typically, if you look at a specific neighborhood, you're going to have at least one cell phone for about half of all the households. So some of those houses, we could have 2 or 3 cell phones, some 0, but at least one in about half of them. And the same thing for emails, maybe even a little bit more, as we're continuing to get more cell phones and emails put into the database. Right. So we have information. Anybody who has a landline, Jeff, you can get that super easy. but you can't call T-Mobile and say, hey, give me your 120 million paying customers and then update that file each month. You can't go that. So you're working with third-party data vendors to all put it into one, mega file.
Right. And I'll tell you, so here's what one of my clients said to me. So we're going through this exercise. We did it live and we pulled up the 5 mile radius and we got, the phone numbers and email addresses. And he's like, well, it didn't have all of them. And I said, listen, first of all, if you look at your 5 mile radius right now, how many of them do you have their email addresses and their phone numbers?
Exactly.
And he stared at me. And I'm sitting on the screen like this with him.
Right.
I got a few. Okay. Well, here we got about a couple, almost 1,000 or 2,000, whatever it was.
More than you had prior. Yep, exactly.
That's right. A hell of a lot more prior. So I said, we got their email addresses and phone numbers. And I don't care if it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect.
Right.
But we've got a good majority, and it's more than you have now. And it's taking the data now to put it to work. And he's like, okay, so what are we going to do? Email campaigns? And I'm like, stop. It's not about just spamming the crap out of people.
Right. Yep.
What can we do with data? Right. So we got a few strategies. First things first is I would look at, and I want you to share your client strategies too. But I'm using this real scenario we used.
Yeah.
I said, okay, you got emails. Yeah. So first of all, yes, you can email them. Awesome. Great. But you know what? We're emailed to death. Now what? So not only could you do emails, what you can do is you can create taking their email addresses. And if you're fairly social savvy or getting fairly social savvy, you could take that data, the email addresses, and import them into, let's say, Facebook and create a custom audience. And now just target those people, that 5 mile radius on Facebook and social on their mobile devices, wherever they are, looking for, let's say, listing opportunities or who's looking to sell or the market's hot and we need inventory, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
One simple way, right?
Yep.
And I'll share some other systems to do this in. I know you have a few ideas. I have a few as well, but that's one. Strategic targeting. Besides, yes, emailing them. Okay, I don't think we have to share how to do that.
Yep.
2, I got phone numbers. What else can I do with phone numbers? Well, easiest part is, I could call them. That's a good part. Call them. But could I got a good question popping up too. So, but could I also leverage a text or SMS broadcast platform and text them an area, text them a message, text them some kind of content about the market being hot and that we need inventory and I've got a buyer ready right now looking to buy a home in your market. That's another. So we've got leverage of both targeting, emailing, phone calls, and the ability to text message out. And that's just within a 5 mile radius, right? So that's just whatever we picked. But your list, if I were to market your list, how big of an area do I get? Do I get like the whole state?
You do, actually. You do. So, essentially, we want to make sure that you have access to any area that you would work in your MLS, right? But then it happens like, oh, well, I work a little bit or belong to 2 MLSs. We basically say, hey, if you're a single agent, you just get access to the whole state. If you're in an area that borders both states, we'll load up both states for you, right? And then,
all right, so I could have both. So okay, so I could have my state and a neighboring state nearby if I cross over. Because I don't really.
Yep.
I'm in New Jersey. I don't need California.
Exactly. Right.
So here's a good question that just popped up, and not to divert because it's relevant. I thought lists were going away on Facebook. So a little confusion there. Yes, Facebook lists are going away. That's correct. Facebook lists. What we're talking about is taking the email addresses and importing it into Facebook for the advertising platform, creating a custom audience in your Facebook platform. So that import for Margaret that's asking is it will target just those people. So let's say you upload 1,000 emails from this list that we get from Cole, right? And it maybe you'll find 800 out of the 1,000, 700. It'll target them based on their email address. Yep. And then we'll only market your message to them.
Yep.
Very strategically. If that's where they are, it's marketing to them.
Yes.
Here's a bold statement I want to make though. And hopefully there's people tuning in that are going to hear this later and share this. I think it used to be the phone number is the most magical thing to have. And I think a cell phone number is still that private, like I got to have that private. I think the biggest sleeper right now, we always took for granted, is having and gathering email addresses from now into the future. Because today, from what I understand of technology happening, and you agree or disagree, is we're tracking people and their social data and all their financial data and everything else with companies that are in the space of predictive analytics based on an email address, right?
Yep.
So someone's Gmail address that we would get from Zillow that we would normally discard or be on a sticky note that falls behind my desk. right? That would be like, it's just another email address. I'm telling you the most valuable asset you're going to have is, and I don't mind sharing, is look up the guys at first.io. Check out that company. And that email address can turn into knowing predictively how long have they owned the home? What's their mortgage amount? Are they getting ready to sell? Did they just have a baby? All of that stuff based on one email address.
Okay.
So those who have the best database are going to start to win more because of the quality of data it's going to provide in moving into this future, right? So just note that to self for those who are listening. All right, so let's kind of reel this back in. So we've got your data, 5 mile radius. Can I throw you on the spot a little bit? Can we pull up a screen share?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you mind doing like a search for me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so you would just log in. We give you your own username and password, right? So I'm going to go share my...
Just do a share screen. I'll let you know when I can see it. And I'll talk over you while you're doing it. So
no, absolutely.
Oh, wait.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. So give me a sample. Pick your spot.
Yep. So you log in. I mean, if you wanted to, you could even grab an entire zip code and just say 516 and download a list. It might take you a little while to do it.
Okay.
But you could download, 22,000 records in a zip code, right? But what I'm going to do in here is just going to even show you how you could really farm a specific neighborhood, right? Okay,
let's start our neighborhood first. Yeah,
stick to a subdivision, right? And so I'm going to go here. So I was going to ask you for a starting point address. I'm going to put in one of our neighbors in here. So 1049 Welter and put in a zip code. So I put in a starting point address.
Yep.
I'm going to hit search, right? So it's going to take a few seconds to load up here. And then it should come up here. It's going to tell me everybody who is tied to that household. So it looks like the Duddins live here. Looks like maybe a couple of adult children that still live in the house with them. Or their house, right? So we have you can see we have cell phones and emails. But what's nice about it, you can see here, hey, I want to do a street search. I want to do a radius. But the most popular thing that folks do, Jeff, here is the map search.
Yeah, I'm very visual. So to me, and we were doing this with clients. I've done this before. I want you to show it so I don't have to role play through this.
So what's nice here is that you can just kind of map out and say, hey, this is the neighborhood that I really want to target. Right?
Okay. Yep.
Mapping it out. And so I know here, this is a neighborhood called West Van Dorn is what the name of the neighborhood is, right? So view available prospects. And I actually just narrowed my list down ahead of time and said I want at least every record at least to have at least one phone number in it, right? So I narrowed it down a little bit. So that's why you'll see about every record has at least one phone number. But then in that little area that I shaded, and it ain't very long to do, we have 467 records with at least one phone number.
Okay, but so if you didn't, it would have some without phone numbers because it doesn't have everybody. But so you filtered it, which is nice. Now, I had a question for you that a client asked me, one of our coaching clients asked, and I didn't have the answer, and I don't know why it didn't seem this obvious, but I see the DNC right there too. So is it cross-referencing the DNC? Is it scrubbing the DNC?
So it's not, it's flagging, I think is a better word for it.
Okay.
You can scrub if you want to as well. So if you're a customer of ours, we have you do one extra step. It's free of charge. It takes a few minutes. We basically have you register with the government. It's the FTC website. We walk you through it, and you fill a little form, and they give you what's called a SAN number, and you give us that number back, and it will flag it next to the numbers if they're OK or DNC, right? So
gotcha.
I don't want people to worry about that. It's super easy to do. And then next to it says OK or DNC. And I am not a lawyer by any means.
No, of course. Data is data. We got to follow the rules. And plus, there might be local ordinances. And Like in certain areas, you can't prospect and door knock. There's no soliciting.
Follow. Exactly. I just tell everybody, go local, research your laws. And then, just decide, if I'm inviting people to do an open house, is it a sales call, right? If I'm calling into a neighborhood and letting them know I have specific buyers looking in a neighborhood, is that a sales call? So again, I'll leave it as that, but it is flagged for folks if they want that option as well, Jeff.
Right. So here's some things I would do. Let's leave this up for a sec. A few things I would do is let's say, take this, export this out, take this email address list. Well, first off, for those of you who've heard the I think it's an app years ago, Slide Dial. You've heard the Slide Dial for years to bypass the ring of a phone. Well, Slide Broadcast is out there and really getting a lot of traction right now. Slide Broadcast will allow you to take all of these, I guess you have clients using Sly Broadcast too? You're nodding your head.
All the time, yes.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yes, leveraging technology as a way to make data actionable. I love Sly Broadcast. And there's a lot of other companies similar to Sly Dial as well that do the same thing. So.
Right. And I was going to put up someone's sending me a message here. So it's SLY broadcast.com. I think it is. So Sly Broadcast. Yep. There you go. So Sly Broadcast, can take all this data and do a bulk broadcast out to your audience. So let's say you're doing an open house. Let's say, and this is a scenario I've got in low inventory markets right now. It's killing us. Mm-hmm. I've got clients that are like, Jeff, I got 5 or 10 buyers like wanting to buy right now.
Yep.
Right now. I'm like, I have nothing to sell them. I'm like, imagine if you had the listing. If you had the listing, what's it worth to you? He's like, it's gold. Well, why aren't you going to get the damn listing is what my conversation is. Why? Well, they're hard to get. They're just, stop it. They are hard to get, but that's why they're gold. That's why they're worth that kind of money. So why don't we try some approaches? So we could take, like, let's say a Sly Broadcast and take this data, export it out, put it into Sly Broadcast and do a voice broadcast, do a broadcast to the neighborhood surrounding it and do a voice broadcast. If you haven't done a voice broadcast, you do a 60-second. Hey, it's Jeff Lobb with XYZ Realty, whatever company you're with.
Yeah.
We have 5 buyers that are waiting to buy homes in your neighborhood that are qualified and ready to go. If you or anybody you know in your market or neighborhood know it's looking for someone to sell, please call me as soon as possible or send me a text. Here's my number. Short, sweet, and it takes about, my gosh, if you set up Sly Broadcast, you could probably send 1,000 of them out in what? A minute and a half, 2 minutes it goes out. Or it goes out sporadically throughout the day to their, I think it's both home phones and cell phones now, which was never, it was always the home phone. Now it delivers to cell phones.
Yep.
So huge opportunity, maximizing time. And I had the screen up before. Your screen's being shared right now, but let me pull this up real quick. Like when people, because I know agents are always cost conscious. I'm going to use my mobile device on this one because we're sharing screen. When I say like inexpensive, I think it was, you could send 1,000. I mean, depends. If you want like the cheapest plan, pay as you go, 1,000 is like $60, but you can do it for a lot less. You can do it for, $40, $50 to send out 1,000 voicemails, and you only pay for what's delivered, which is even more amazing. Doesn't go, you don't pay, right?
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I have a really good success story here, because if you don't mind me sharing, Jeff, is if you have 5 buyers looking at a neighborhood that are pre-qualified, that's money, right? That's awesome as well.
Yeah.
But narrow it down, and maybe you have 1 buyer who wants to live in a specific neighborhood. Gosh, guys, be as descriptive about those buyers as you can. Make it personable, make it relatable. And so I have a client in New Hampshire, John Musillo. He did this here just recently, right? Where he had buyers that they were ready to sell their house once John found them a new house in the neighborhood that they wanted to live in, right? They lived on, let's say, Patterson Street, which is a really known for being a busy street in his area.
Yep.
And so he dropped a voicemail just like you're talking about, and basically said, hey, I have a great young family with 2 young kids. They live on Patterson Street, and it's so busy, they can't raise a family on that street. I'm sure you can understand what they're going through. And so that's why your neighborhood is their top neighborhood choice, because it's a quiet, established neighborhood, a great neighborhood to raise a family. If you're looking, of anybody who's looking to sell, and if you thought about yourself and you don't want to have 100 people come to your house, let me know if I can show my buyers your house, right? And so he did that message, Jeff. And he actually, what's funny is he took that same message and he dropped a voicemail. He then also sent an email to that same list with the subject line of like buyers who live on Patterson Street, activating there, and then upload that same list into Facebook for a custom audience. So now that neighborhood was seeing him 3 different ways, and a husband replied to him on the voicemail, and actually the wife of the husband replied back to his email saying the same thing. Yeah, we're ready to downsize. We're going to a retirement home. If you're real, bring those buyers through. So
That's crazy. I mean, look, remember, I always say this, and this is why I've had people that have said, oh, I've had this stuff before. It's never having it. It's how do you use it? If I could send out 1,000 for, I don't know, $50, $60, and look, so what? I got no response. I do it again. If I got 1 or 2 good deals out of this is something that if you have buyers and there's no inventory, what are you doing to get them anyway? Like, what else are you going to do? You can knock the doors. I'm all for it. Go hustle and grind. But I would also do this anyway. This is ridiculous not to have. The problem is we never had the data. You can go door to door to door and ask them all for their names, phone numbers, and email addresses too. But it's never perfect. So that's the one option is leveraging some voice broadcasting. You could do an email marketing retargeting we talked about. You could take it and use it in some big data platforms like First.io. But what about text? You could also leverage a platform and say, what if I want to text people this? And while you could do it one at a time, it's fine. There's another platform, and I believe it's actually owned by the folks at Sly Broadcast. It might be a subsidiary of, and I'm going to spell it for you. It's called Joopz. 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 I don't know who makes up the names, but catchy. We've got to know how to spell it. Joopz is simply SMS text mass marketing, where I could do the same effect. I could take my phone numbers, my cell phone numbers, export them, put them into this platform. And not only will it send it out, it'll send it from a different phone number. So it's coming out from a different number. It'll track the conversations for you and the responses and the opens and the replies all in the same platform. And I'm going to look up, some pricing there too, because I don't even know. It's inexpensive. It's not that, again, everything costs money. Let's face it. You got to invest in your business. Pay-as-you-go pricing. And again, these aren't my companies. I have no affiliation with owning them or vested in them. Pay-as-you-go plans, a monthly plan, 250 messages a month for $5.
Right. I mean,
2,000 messages for $25.
Right. I mean, you can look that with the amount that people are spending on buying leads, right? I mean, versus
I can't send postcards at you. I can't even get a postcard out the door for less than $100.
Right. And Jeff, it's all about just having setting yourself up to have relevant conversations with prospective buyers or sellers, right?
Okay. Yep.
And setting yourself up as being the industry expert. And whether it's, backing up all the way and say, hey, this is a farm that I really, really want to own, right? And so I found a farm that I live in, that my kids go to school in, I belong to, whatever that is.
Yep.
Down by your farm and wondering, okay, how can I get in front of everybody in this farm with as many ways possible, right? And some things that you're talking about are additional ways to get in front of folks. And what's nice about them, they're all very cost effective. And, and mailing has its place, but it's really expensive, right? And so
it gets expensive, design, and then consistency. Just like consistency here. If you're going to voice broadcast, you don't do it once and hope. You still every couple of weeks, or, it depends on what your market's doing.
Right.
If you have REOs, if you have, if you want to try and find investors, well, this doesn't necessarily filter investors per se, but you don't know who's an investor anyway. So your voice broadcast might be, hey, I'm looking for an investor, someone who wants to get into maybe flipping homes. I've got a property that needs rehabbed. It's priced at $40,000 or whatever it is, and voice broadcast that.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Way to skin that cat.
Maybe too, Jeff. Maybe it's, I want everybody to, first off, I just want to meet everybody in this neighborhood, right? So maybe it's something like, hey, renting a snow cone machine, or having some sort of, food in the park, or just a movie in the park, right? And that's your first thing is, I'm going to leverage all these tools that Jeff just mentioned as a way to invite that neighborhood into an exclusive Edenton South movie night, right? And then invite all those people to the movie night, but then you can start having conversations with people, right? And
that's right.
Jeff, where are you from originally? What brought you here? Have you thought about moving back? What do you do for a living? Oh, you do rentals. Oh, okay, great. You start having face-to-face conversations with people and building relationships. And I'm a firm believer that, the shift is starting to happen in a lot of markets, Jeff, and the agents that have the biggest database, the most relationships with folks, they're the ones that are going to be sustainable growth in their business, right?
That reverse mentality is coming back about having a good database. And the problem is people have a database, or some even have an Excel spreadsheet or something, but they don't do a lot with it.
Right.
They don't do nothing with it. I mean, they send email stuff out, and they might send, and I don't mean this in a bad, well, maybe it is a bad thing, but a digital junk mail is what it is. Right. You send digital junk mail.
Right.
That's why I don't go to my mailbox every day. Is I don't want the junk. My good mail comes to a PO box where I give to people for good stuff.
Right.
Don't send me junk mail. So we get caught up in just sending automated stuff. And while that might work in some cases, here's a way I can at least get data on my farm. Right now, most of us don't have all that data. And if you do, that's awesome. Congratulations. But what if I want, and this was another group, and by the way, just to go back to your idea real quick, because I did have a client, and hopefully they watch this. They actually did get an ice cream truck. They rented an ice cream truck, brought it to their neighborhood, and did free ice cream to the neighbors on a Saturday hot afternoon. It was freaking awesome. Everything was sponsored by, their company.
Yep.
That was one thing. But what about, I get the question all the time, well, Jeff, I'm selling $200,000 homes. It's my baby in my backyard, but I really would love to start selling 4s and 5s. I've never broke into that market.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's have that conversation. How do you start to do it? Is first get the data. Yeah, go there first. Identify your market. And I'll always tell you, don't pick a farm area. And I don't care how much data is available or not. The first thing you have to do from a real estate perspective is first look at the churn. Look how much churn is happening in that market. And some of you that might be new that I just said a word, you're like, what the hell's churn, Jeff? You got to go through your MLS and look at the last 12 to 18, and if not 2 years, and say, okay, how many homes sold in this area? If you're trying to sell 500 or 800 or $1 million homes and only 5 sold in the last 2 years, you better rethink how you're going to stay alive. Right?
Yep. The turnover rate just isn't there, right?
Not there. It's not there. So you want to find that happy medium of, okay, hey, 30 or 40% or 10 or maybe 50 homes sold, 100 homes sold. Pick your area that has first churn. Secondly, besides just having churn, I want you to look at this, and this is more strategy now, is I like this area now and they're $500,000 homes. Great. There's a good amount of churn. People are selling. Great. Who owns the market right now? I always want people to know, and there's 2 ways to look at it. Is there 1 or 2 teams or people or agents that are crushing it?
Right.
And if they are, that's okay. No intimidation whatsoever. You just want to think of a different strategy. So you want to see who owns it. You're going to either see 1 or 2 people or teams that crush it, or you're going to see 1 here, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, random company, company. And that's another mindset. Let's take the first one. Someone owns it. And this is where intimidation happens, Tyler. They get, this team's been in there. They got every other listing. They're not perfect. Let me tell you that right now. They're going to not necessarily do everything they said they're going to do. They're going to mess up. Not everyone likes everybody all the time. And maybe you have a better value prop. You just haven't had the number of bats. So you study your competition. That's what I did. I don't care if somebody owns it. I'm not afraid of it. All I want is a shot to get 1 or 2 and then 3 to 4. So I just look at, hey, what do they do? What do they provide? What's their marketing plan like? What do they do for every listing? What's their promise? And then I just learn how to compete with them like any other competitor. That's simple.
It's an incumbent strategy, right? It's just what are you figuring out how to knock I completely
knock them off their horse. How do I mean, nicely, respectfully, street cred wise, not unethically or verbally. I just want to truly be competitive. What marketing am I going to do to be better? Be better. If no one owns it, now even a better opportunity, because now there's no one really focused on the discipline of the continuous. Like when you get that listing, are you really marketing to the other 40, 50, 80 homes, even using this data to tell people about this market, about this listing? Are you going in and talking about, there should be at least 5 reasons to talk to your neighbors and communicate with your neighbors on one listing.
Absolutely.
Hey, I just listed it. Hey, we're having an open house. Hey, we're doing a broker's open this weekend. Hey, we just got a buy. This is the best one as far as I'm concerned. Hey, we just got a buyer and an accepted offer on a neighbor's property near you. And you don't tell them the price because that's what they want to know. Well, how much? If you have anybody that's interested in selling or any interest about, who your new neighbors might be, let me know. All they want to know is what did it sell for? So you might get inquiries alone. Hey, well, that's great. But what'd that house sell for? You know what? Unfortunately, it's not closed yet. It's under contract. You have somebody that might be looking, or I'll be happy to chat with you back when it's closed. And now I have another reason to talk to you. So you talk about conversations. We don't take advantage of the amount of times to have a conversation.
And what's nice about those conversations, Jeff, is that they're relevant conversations that folks are open to having, right? Because whatever that listing lists for and sells for directly impacts the value of your home.
That's right.
Down the street, right? Your biggest asset that you have is affected by these other variables, right? And so people want to know that information, right? Oh, Jeff, they really just listed that for X amount. Are they going to get that? Are houses really selling for that right now?
Yep.
Man, I hope they sell for that.
That's right. And then you use the 4-letter word that begins with an F.
Let's hear it.
FOMO. FOMO.
Missing out.
FOMO.
Yeah.
The fear of missing out. Your voice broadcast or your email message might say something like this. Hey, it's Jeff from XYZ Real Estate Company. We just sold a home in your neighborhood in 35 days. It was a fantastic sale. It may have an impact on the value of your home based on its sale price. If you have any questions about the value of your home or the equity you might have, please let me know. I'll be happy to help.
Yep.
A little scary, but that's true. That home does have an impact, up or down. It's a comp now. And all I want to do is create the conversation. Well, yeah, you kind of got me nervous a little bit. What did that home sell for? Actually sold for 452, which is a good thing because it helped drive some prices up a little bit compared to one, and then you get into the conversation. Well, what's your home? How long you been in your home? How much, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And then that conversation turns into a nurture, or turns into a relationship. And all of a sudden you make it awkward for them to be listing someone else, to use someone else to list their house.
That's right.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And the other part about it is by making those phone calls, I mean, you got to think, and I know this is a fact, that neighbors are like, wow, this agent is doing whatever they can to get that house sold. Wow, he is earning his paycheck there, right?
Right.
That house is only on the market for 17 days. Man, that Jeff knows what he's doing. He's out there earning it and crushing it. And if I'm going to hire somebody to sell my property, the biggest asset that I have, I want somebody who's out there, doing whatever they can to get it sold.
Right.
And so you're going to a listing appointment, Jeff, and now you're armed at that listing appointment to say, hey, I don't know who else you're interviewing, but I guarantee you no one is going to do these 8 things around the property. They're going to call all the neighbors and ask if they know of anybody who's ready to, they're going to drop a voicemail. They're going to do a exclusive open house for the neighbors. You do all these things, it makes you pretty sexy when you go into that.
And you refer to them like, hey, listen, the phone call I gave to you? I have thousands of other phone numbers we call. You don't have to tell them it's broadcast or exactly a system, because your job is to make it sound like you called them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Natural as anything. So you leverage and say, this is how we do that. You just don't tell them the whole system you're using.
Right.
So, for time purposes, because I know attention spans are thin with real estate agents and mortgage professionals and everybody else in this business. So, there's a lot of strategies. It's what you do with it. So Cole Resource itself, I know everyone's probably, hey, there's a price to it. There's a cost to if you want to use slide broadcast. My camera's zooming out. There's a cost if you want to do voice broadcast. That being said, what's Cole cost? And I think we get a little bit of a discount for some of our friends and family and clients of ours too, I believe.
Yep. So if you go to a landing page we set up for you, Jeff, it's just ColeRealtyResource.com/Jeff Lobb. So it's right there.
Yep.
So easy enough. It goes to a landing page. Essentially, anybody who mentions your name gets a $500 discount. So just for pricing, we're under about $1,000 for the year. So it's normally $1,500.
They're going to say for the month for a second. So it comes in under $1,000 with the discount?
Yes. Yep. So $996 for the year. And we have some different ways to split up that price, right? So the most common is 4 easy payments, about $249, but it's good for the year. But if you really do the math on it, it comes out to be
less than $100 a month. Less than $80 a month.
A month for unlimited data. And when we mean unlimited, Jeff, you could go in there and grab, that list of 450 records that I just showed everybody, or you could download 450,000 records if you wanted, the entire county that you live in of data.
So you could download the whole county. You could download, the whole state, I imagine, if you wanted to. Are there other things we could filter by at some point? Are there going to be other filter criteria set up?
So there's some basics in there now, like length of residence, right? If you only wanted people that have lived in their house from 4 to 20 years, or home value, or confirmed homeowners, some things like that as well. And it kind of depends on what you're doing, because I'm pretty vocal in saying, hey, there are some companies out there that provide analytics, but no one can predict when someone passes away. No one can predict when someone gets a job change.
Right.
No one can predict when someone gets divorced. right? And so, we built our house about a year ago. The people next to us built their house after we did. They already sold it. He got a job transfer out of state. They live maybe here, so if you're wanting to own a neighborhood, or if you want to be having meaningful conversations, I think you just call everybody. But yeah,
don't discount the 1 or 2 year homeowner because they might be bouncing.
Right. So
they're having triplets all of a sudden. Boom, I got triplets coming. Holy crap.
Exactly. You just don't know those big life events. I mean, there's different ways. Like, again, I think a lot of those algorithms are that some of those specialty companies provide. I mean, length of residence is one of the biggest one, right?
Yeah, sure.
Using our platform as well.
Well, it's an obvious trigger for sure. I mean, obviously, if you're in your home more than 6-7 years, there's a likelihood you're more likely to. So I could see it, but today's world, a lot of things are happening. So, so we go to ColeRealtyResources.com/Jeff Lobb. They get a $500 discount, which I'm thanking you for. Appreciate that because I know my friends and clients, and like I said, I got coaching clients that are going to be using this stuff. We did some already with some clients, and we're executing. That's half the battle. We're executing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is making it actionable, right? So we do have a 30-day money-back guarantee, guys. If you got them there, just wanted to try it out in a few weeks, then, I mean, just don't worry about that. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. But I will say this, Jeff, and, I teach a class all the time to our current customers and different Facebook groups I'm in. And one thing I always just beg people to do is lock themselves in a room for 3 hours one day and prospect. Right? Picking up the phone, and I don't care. It could just be your iPhone, right? It doesn't have to be a dialer. It doesn't have to be anything else. Just pick up the phone and call in a specific neighborhood or whatever it is. And I would guarantee you during that, and I hate to guarantee anything, right? But during those 3 hours, you're going to have a few meaningful conversations at least, right? And if you nurture those conversations, they're going to turn into listings.
Yep.
So it's about, grinding it. And then at some point you're gonna get too busy, or you might get, it's just a lot of work. Then it's using technology that we talked about, like a slide dial and other systems.
Yeah, and there might be dialers, and you can import the stuff into dialers and your email campaigns that you use for your brand or whatever it is. You can still import this into anything.
Yep.
But the goal is getting the data first.
Yep.
So here's what I'll leave you with. The one thing that got me most excited about real estate, and I started in 1988, man. So I'm giving up some of my gray hairs right here. No doubt. And I'm grateful for it. I mean, now I get to speak and train and talk all over the country about it. So I'm really loving what I do. However, it still never leaves me what got me excited about real estate. And it really ties into farming is you get in a plane, and I'm flying out tomorrow to see some clients in Maryland, Virginia. It happens all the time. And you look down and you just see the amount of rooftops. And you can see sometimes how they're broken out into subdivisions in the golf course community or the towns and cities. And I used to look over them and go, no doubt, this was my words, holy crap, look how much opportunities right there.
Right there.
How do I ever get to meet all those people was the challenge.
Yep.
I just got to get to know them.
Yep.
How do I do that? And there's so many of them. We just sometimes look at data and it's here in our database, it's in our desktop, or we don't have it at all. And we don't know how to use it. And even when we have it, we don't use it properly. So for those who are listening, start getting smarter with your data. Leverage somebody like a Cole Realty Resources. Get the data in your database. Don't stare at it. Get prospecting with it. Use marketing and technology sessions. Use some social media. If we can help, we're here for you guys too. Just reach out, Jeff@SparkTankMedia.com. But that being said, this was about strategies and how to use some of this stuff, not just about here's a product, go buy it. Right. I don't care what you buy. If you don't use it, it's useless.
Absolutely.
Right? So learn to leverage it. If you have questions, I can't thank you enough, Tyler, for jumping on. You can tell how excited I get about this stuff because I know right now I'd be doing this if I was back practicing and selling. But this is what we're talking to all our clients about. And when they do it, we're coming up with, like you said, you got clients, we're newer strategies. Now what can I do with it? What can I do with it? And it's fun to watch how we develop it because it's a bit of a game. We're winning some, we're losing some, but we play the wins. And it's working. We got proof.
Absolutely.
So thanks, man, for your time. Thanks to whoever's on the webinar. If you have any questions, how do we get a hold of you if you have any questions?
Just go to our website, ColeRealtyResource.com. Make sure you mention this webinar, mention Jeff's name.
Or go /Jeff Lobb. You'll get me too there, /Jeff Lobb.
Yep. And I'm on the road like you are, Jeff, all the time. So I'm not the best person to talk to, but make sure to ping one of our sales guys. They're great.
Or send it to me and I'll get somebody for you. But that's, make sure you get the discount if you ever do this stuff. Don't pay full price, leverage our discount, which I am grateful for you guys for giving. So thanks for that. So on that note, Jeff Lobb at SparkTank Media, and Tyler from Cole Realty Resources. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Make it happen.